There are many powerful individuals, rich ones, technocrats, politicians, prime ministers, kings, and queens, but it's those who lurk in the shadows that are in control. One spoke on the wheel has no impact on the system itself because it's been spinning for hundreds or perhaps thousands of years. There are no coincidences, only events. How can you control an ever-growing population with just a few individuals hiding behind the scenes? Is that really possible? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, I've got an interesting video. We're going to talk about what's going on behind the scenes. I know that for the majority of people, 99% of them, they're unaware of what's happening. They don't really care about what's happening, but they certainly want to take part. They are actively engaging in the current system. They chant and they cheer and they argue with their friends and their family, and we've seen it go a lot worse in the recent period here. Individuals are fighting for things that they don't really understand. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, it's like a spoke on a wheel. There is one, but there are really more than those. And people are only focusing on the one. It's a cog in the machine. It's just one of many. You have to understand how all of these connect. And is it really possible for a small group of individuals that are hiding around like the Wizard of Oz and trying to actively manipulate the daily events of people and countries and everything that we're seeing? Really, is that realistic? Well, let's get into it right now. I'm going to start with this here, and there's going to be a series of different images that I want to show you, and it's going to be a different video than most, that's for sure. I used to cover this type of information previously. A lot of people really didn't like it. They got really upset at me. Also, of course, I'm not supposed to put this information on this platform, but I'm going to try to do my best to sort of go around it, sneak around, if you know what I mean. Now, we're looking at what they call the round table. There are many different organizations that are here. There are so many that are not on this list. I'll show you another larger list in a second. But the point I'm trying to make is that they're all interconnected. And you see certain individuals' names come up in the lists that are in these organizations. They have some sort of affiliation. Maybe they are on the board of this company, and then they are also with the CFR, for instance. And there are so many different ones. They're showing you here, the round table. So we've got the Council on Foreign Relations. You know, as a fact, that they work very closely with the government, and you just look at the names in that list, my goodness. The Trilateral Commission as well. You got the UN is on here, Bilderberg's on here, Club of Rome, Royal Institute of International Affairs. So the Bilderberg previously was actually hidden. They weren't, they didn't exist. Just a few years ago, did not exist. It was ridiculous. Not only mainstream, but even people, I would see it in the comments when I was covering it. This is ridiculous. It's not true, and so on. Now they're just out in the public. You don't know what necessarily happens behind the scenes there. But I think it's funny because it has now just come right out into the open. Yes, all of the most powerful people that we know of are there. They're discussing something, but you know what? It's probably nothing wrong. I mean, you discuss things like that in the shadows all the time. Don't worry about it. You got kings and queens, politicians, people from the biggest companies in the world. They're all there for a few days, and it's all good. Nothing to worry about. Anyway, that's the point. So that's what we see. We see that with our own eyes. So imagine what goes on at a deeper level. I just covered a couple days ago what we're looking at with the Vatican, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and all of these other big institutions. The OECD was in there, all coming together, trying to make the system better, as they say. So this is just something that I think really needs to be looked at a lot deeper. Now, we can go into different levels of this, but if you just take one layer away just from what you see, literally go down one layer, it's going to make such a big difference. Because of course the media is going to present it to you in what is public and the information there that they're willing to share. But there's so much more going on. And it's when you start connecting these organizations that things make a lot of sense. I've shown this many times before. Actually, this is from 2012, and it has been updated because there has been more consolidation along the way. But this is the media, the illusion of choice. Media has never been more consolidated. 6 media giants now control a staggering 90% of what we read, watch, or listen to. You can see the companies at the bottom there. All of the big institutions are all controlled by a few. So if you think about it, if you're saying to yourself, how can they really do this? How can they control all of the information? It's impossible. Well, look, 90% of it, let's round it off. Nearly 100% of the information is coming from just a few companies. And what if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 companies, right? You have the CEOs and maybe the top few executives. They're all at the Bilderberg. They're all talking about the same information. And that is brought down to all of the other presidents and the CEOs and all of the executives that go in these companies, and then they bring it to their departments and so on. This is the process of compartmentalization. If you have it in a pyramid shape like this, you may have seen this before, and I know for many people, they have heard about this, but I want to talk about it. You have a few at the top. How many people are at the top? That's debatable. There are so many numbers. You hear from one group or another. Did Rothschild say it was this many? You look at the 300, you look at the 13. Okay, I get it. Anyway, you just look at how it's set up. If you look at an organization, if you've worked for a big company, you know how it works, or the government as well. At the very top, you've got the CEO most likely, and then you've got the presidents and so on. So you probably have the CEO or a chairman, and then underneath that, you have the C executives. You got the CEO, the CTO, the CIO, the COO, all of these groups, right? Then you go under that and you've got other executives, okay? And just go down the list. I'm not going to bore you with all of the details there. And then you got the management, senior management is up here. So senior management, and you go down again and you've got, let's just say the other management goes, and then, everybody else is down here. Now, let's just say the managers, do they know what's going on at the executives? No, they don't really know what's going on. Do the executives really know about the daily activities of the managers or of the everybody else group? Not really, okay? They don't really know each other. But I could assure you, on the executive level, they are monitoring exactly what's happening at their own level. The same with the CEO. Does he know what goes on in the mailroom? He doesn't probably have a clue. He's probably never even been there. The CEO doesn't know where the broom closet is. The CEO doesn't know what's going on in accounting either. He might have had a meeting with the head of the accounting department, the finance department, but he doesn't know what's happening on daily events. This is compartmentalization. If you've worked in these big institutions, you have one task, you sit at your desk, you do that role, you go home. It's compartmentalization. You get your orders from the boss. You were put in that role at some point. And at these levels here, you're seeing just a select bit of information. You might hear from inside, I heard about this guy doing that or that, but this is the way it works. So the same thing works with all of these big media organizations, as well as all of the compartmentalized systems, whether we're talking about the supranational entities, the UN, the IMF, the World Bank, and so on. It's not like they get into a room and they're all saying, okay, what are we going to do this year? We're all colluding together. We're going to get them, all those little people out there, and there's this fanciful event that takes place, and there's streamers and there's confetti going off. No, none of that. Okay, it's not like that. It's very simple. They're compartmentalized. What are we gonna do with this? And they talk to their own people, and it's just standard meetings that take place, and they go off and do what they're told, because that's the way the things work. You're put into that position. You simply do what you're told. You've probably read this quote before, but I'll say it anyway. David Rockefeller, in his book from 2002, Memoirs, this is the quote. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents such as my encounter with Castro to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe that we are part of a secret cabal working against the interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as, quote, internationalists, and conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it. This is a quote from his book, claiming that he is proud of creating the one world. Now, we are seeing different events that are taking place. You know about the Great Reset. Nobody even knows what the Great Reset is. It's all just a bunch of jargon today. It's all getting mixed up. I'm sure that will be clarified as the years go on. We know different aspects of it, but understand that there are people like this who for just a minute, they let certain things slip. We get quotes here, we get little events that take place, and those events on their own, it's not too much. But when we start to piece them together, it gets real frightening. Look, people like this, the Rockefellers, they are big. They're a big family, and I'll show you a chart in just a second that makes the connection with several others. They're not the biggest though, but they still have so much power. And then you see it, when you understand their connections, you say, okay, this is a very powerful family. All right, you know about their part in the creation of the Federal Reserve. We got that. But then you see their actual Forbes 500 or 100 list or whatever it's called, and you see they're not even on the top 100. What's happening? Or maybe there's one or two, but they're not there because they're truly powerful. The people who have actual power and wealth and control are not going to end up on that list. My goodness, no. This is a fantastic chart that was done, and I don't even put any weight onto it in itself. You might say, no, that's not right. No, I don't like this. I don't agree with it. It doesn't really matter, actually. It just shows you how these different groups, people, institutions are connected. And they do have, you can look up the different names and see this for yourself, okay? Now, like I said, to me, it doesn't actually matter which group goes where, and is that really that powerful, or is this one? To me, it doesn't matter. So you've got this, what they call the Order of the Illuminati. And on the right one here, by the way, I'm just going to go through casually. So let's put your feet up and have a drink. House of Rothschild is here. House of Rockefeller is here. You've got the Bilderbergers, United Nations, Council on Foreign Relations. That one's coming up again. Here we go with the Royal Institute for International Affairs. Fabian Society, Social Society is right here. Club of Rome is here. That's another big one. And let's go around. MI5 is here. GRU is here. Socialist Party USA is here. You just move in, down and around. And you come around to different things like the KGB and the CIA and so on. Bohemian Club is here, right there. Trilateral Commission's here. And you go around. And I have read white papers from so many of these different groups over the years. I'm not really allowed to talk about this on the channel. So I did previously. I deleted actually several hundred videos over the years because knowing what was coming, the purge. So I'm trying to clean up. But anyway, this just tells us how many different groups there are. And you look at the list of these people, and my goodness, they are, you might have an individual that's part of the Council on Foreign Relations, but he was also there in the United Nations, and maybe he was a politician in a certain country, and then he was working for Goldman Sachs, and you realize, wow, okay, so now I'm seeing the connections. Now it all makes sense. Looking at this again, when you see, for instance, the Rothschilds, you can look at, it shows you, I know the font is small, but definitely, by the way, look at the link in the description, pull this up. It's a high definition link, so you'll be able to see it nice and clearly. Great Britain, it shows you the group here, Rhodes Milner Roundtable, and that's connected in with the, as you can see, British Society for Psychiatric Research, London School of Economics, and it just goes on, whatever, doesn't matter. This is what I'm trying to say. that there are all of these different groups. It's not as if there's just one guy pulling levers and making things happen, and then he just gives out the orders to millions of people and tells them, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do that, step 1, 2, and 3. That's so unrealistic, okay? It just doesn't work like that. But you've got all these different groups that have these different meetings that are obviously communicating together, and then those people are within several of those big institutions, and as a result of that, they're getting the same information, they're talking about those same things, and certainly they're going to spread that and make sure that we are all on the same page. And that is basically, those at the top stay at the top, everybody down below stay below. But it's compartmentalized, because you're not going to have a politician that's actually powerful. That is so completely ridiculous and short-sighted. That guy is going to be gone in a few years. You know that already. But some institutions, Council on Foreign Relations, the guy might be there for years and years and years and years. You've got the families like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds who can control their friends. They can do what they need to get done over a period of not just one lifetime. They can do it over hundreds and hundreds of years. All of their connections, as you see here, some of them are listed. That starts to make a whole lot of sense. I know I'm being a little bit vague, but I hope that what I'm trying to convey to you here makes some sense. Here's another chart I found. You could see the Committee of 300 and just connects in a few things. Looking at United Nations, member nations, Committee of 300 coming down here, British intelligence, other intelligence agencies, CIA, and so on, going down, Royal Institute for International Affairs. That's obviously very important. Breaks it down further and further and further. And then, as I said, it just makes sense to me. But if you see it as sort of like, the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the scenes, he's here and he's dictating everything to everybody below him, and there's just all of these activities taking place here, and there's just one guy pulling the levers making it all happen. No, absolutely not. It's because of these different, you can call them secret societies, you can call them these different institutions, they're think tanks, they're all different things, and altogether they are basically actively on a regular basis effectively making so many different changes, big swings, and events that take place are because of these groups in one way, shape, or form. This is showing us the Rothschild family tree, essentially, and it's showing us 1743 to 1818, and it just breaks it down. And the only reason I mention this, not just because it's obviously a very important family as they show it, it is breaking down by area, region. London, Frankfurt, Vienna, Naples, Paris. The family basically broke up in order, I shouldn't say broke up, but they really tried to separate themselves, planted themselves, is probably a better word, into these different regions to maintain control over the financial system, and as a result, the politicians and so on. They financed both sides of the wars, you know all about them. And this is just giving you an idea of how this is done. It's not one guy, there's not one Rothschild, and not everybody with the last name Rothschild is going to have this influence, absolutely not, but you can see where they are, their connections that they have, and my goodness, it's quite deep. And then we have the Federal Reserve. I talk about this all the time. The central banks are so integral, so important to what we're seeing today, and many people simply ignore it. But I quoted this back in 2019. Unfortunately, only 30,000 people have seen this video since. Yet, this quote is like everything for the Fed. Everything. Quote from Powell, "We are not part of the government." I quoted that. If you don't believe it, check out the video, go to the links in the description, and you will see it for yourself. Everything, by the way, will be in the description under the sources of this video, so you can get that. But anyway, what I wanted to show you here was important because I see people today all the time. They love the Federal Reserve. They beg for the Federal Reserve to do more, and they are all part of these groups. And it's sick. It's absolutely sick when I see people that promote promote them, that love them, that ask for them to do more. It is simply a knife wound in and a twist. It's getting that twist in there, and it burns and it hurts, and it is not a good thing. If people only knew more, I would hope, I would pray that they would be a lot smarter, more intelligent about the actions that they're taking. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, give me a thumbs up. If you hate it, if you hate my guts, give me a thumbs down. At least have an opinion. If you want to learn about e-commerce, go to my website, theamazongps.com. If you want to understand the financial system, check out my 2 books, link in the description. And if you haven't seen this video yet, you absolutely should. Click on it. I'll see you there.